There are plenty of videos online on sheetrock repair, so I won't spend a lot of time on it. Use your square and your utility knife to cut as you see here on the face of the board, and then pull lightly on the opposite side and tap it with your knee and it'll break right where you cut it. And then pull the sheetrock back at a 90 degree and use your utility knife to cut through the paper. And here's another view here of it bent back at 90 degrees. Use your knife on this side, slice through the paper, works real good. Countersink your sheetrock screws as shown here. Try not to break through the paper, just recess the screw. A sheet of sheetrock is tapered down both sides for the joint tape and joint compound. It's easier to mark and cut using a level to go up against the tapered edge. It gives you a better surface in which to put your square against. Watch your fingers when cutting this sheetrock. Just push and twist this keyhole saw to start a hole. It's great for cutting drywall. Notice that there is a piece of wood across where the two sheets of sheetrock will join. The switch in the on-off gas valve will be accessible through the service opening. This is the back side of the furnace showing the service panel opening. Preparing for a box around this large duct. Marking where the ceiling height will be on this duct. I had to make a wood adapter here to drop this vent down about 1.5 inches. As shown here, tapered pieces to not interfere with the airflow, as shown in this photo. And a trial fit on the vent. It works just fine. Now you see the service entrance where I can change the filter that's to be left open. And progressing right along with the sheetrock. To remove a gas furnace pipe, just tap on this retaining ring and it'll expose the tabs that lock this together. And it just pulls apart. You may have to lift up on those tabs a little bit, but it'll pull apart, and then you can measure for your opening in the sheetrock as shown in this photo. Then mark your cutout and use your keyhole saw, the tip of it, to cut out the hole. And there you are. Now to build a box for this duct, and now it's ready for sheetrock. And here's the start of the frame for the large intake air duct. As shown here, I had to hang it with wire temporarily since I was working by myself. And progressing right along with that, and marking my ceiling height line on the drywall. You may want to punch small holes at intervals where the ceiling height line is and try not to cover them with paint and drywall compound. And this vent box is ready for taping, the joint tape, and the metal edge. Another photo of same. You can use a level to transfer ceiling height marks, as shown here also. Here I'm making a final test fit on this vent. Be sure that you have wood behind your ceiling height line so your molding can be attached. That is a must-have. Use metal edge on the outside corners and joint tape on the inside corners. This metal edge is very easy to work with, but like I've mentioned before, it's extremely sharp, sharp as a razor. Metal corner edge around the service panel. Putting the sheetrock up over the door and screwing it, and then cutting out the opening with my drywall saw, and saving that piece for the door that I'll be making. Same here. And there you have the lower door opening. And now cutting out and removing the sheetrock from the upper door opening. Use your drywall saw to clean up any edges. Drill and countersink block screws for the door jamb, so the screw heads don't interfere with the door hinges. And the door is completely cut out, and I'll use the 2 pieces of sheetrock for the door. Make your cut from both sides and then just break it apart. Tapered shims hold this frame in place for a test fit. Another test fit and marking for the door hinges. Transferring marks for the door hinge, and there's plenty of videos online on how to do this, how to install hinges, so I won't go into depth on that here. Now the hinges have been installed and the metal has been trimmed around them. And I've installed the corner bead on this duct box, as you see here. I've finished all my corner bead metal, and now I need to tape the joints. Fiberglass joint tape is easy to work with, and it's easily removed if you need to change position. And the door's in place, and here's a little support for the doorknob and a couple of door stops. And I'm starting to apply joint compound with my putty knife. After I've applied joint compound, then I'll come down that wall with a wider knife, let it dry, then come back over it with an even wider knife and the next layer, and then sand it. Apply only a very thin coat at a time. After the joint compound dries, feel for any low spots with your hand and mark. Trash can get in that compound, and if it does, it'll drag little creases in your joint compound. Try to keep your drywall compound free from debris. Here I've applied joint compound to the corner around the service opening, and I've applied joint compound to all the taped places. And I'm sanding with a pole sander and a sanding screen. Now I'm using a drywall sanding sponge. It has different grits on different sides. Most of the sanding's done now. I made the base molding from 1x4 furring strips. Now the enclosure and the columns are ready for the first coat of paint. And the first coat of paint's in here. You can still see through it. After 2 coats of paint, it's finished. Now I cut this piece of sheetrock for the window box. And here you can see it installed at the top of the window. The crack will be filled with joint compound and sanded. Drywall sealing has been installed on all the window boxes and door boxes now, as you see here. A little bit more about caution on using that utility knife when you're cutting pieces of drywall using your square. Just be careful that you don't jump that square and cut your fingers. Easy to do. You will have a lot of drywall cuts that are going to have to be joined that are not tapered. And you just tape over that joint with a fiberglass tape, then put 1 layer of joint compound right over the tape, let it dry, then come back and put another layer on both sides of the tape, let that dry, and then maybe a little bit more on top of the tape again, and then sand. The biggest mistake you'll make is putting on too much joint compound at one time. Put on 1 thin coat and let it dry. Don't keep messing with it. Then after lightly sanding, move on to a wider knife and your next coat. Watch plenty of videos on drywall repair and you'll soon get the knack of doing this. It's not that hard, but it takes a little time to learn. One more thing, you'll need a drywall corner knife for the inside corners. That's available at any hardware store. You can do without, but it makes it much easier to do. Okay, if you're still with me, now we'll move on to part 4. Thanks for watching my video, and I hope this video has been some help to you. See ya.